All right. It is 6 o'clock. I am Dan Funston, superintendent here for the school corporation, and this is the one meeting of the year that I get to open and start the meeting because we have not yet elected officers for the board. So I will remind everybody that today is Monday, January 9th. Welcome to our meeting. This is a meeting of our board in public for the purpose of conducting the school corporation's business. Is not considered a public community meeting. There'll be a time for public participation about agenda items as indicated on the agenda. If you'd like to address the board, please fill out a yellow card found on the sign-in table to get those of Mrs. Warren before you speak. With that, we will do the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to invite up Mr. Lesenby here, and he is going to administer the oath of office, which is very lengthy, so be patient for a few of our new members.
I will. New members, if you please stand and raise your right hand. My name is Dean Leslie, by the way. I'm an attorney at the Working One Council of the School. And as Dan mentioned, this is a fairly lengthy pledge, so each of you can choose to swear or affirm. I have you swear for me, so we're going to go with each of you. You raise your right hand, please. I state your name. Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute the duties
I will faithfully execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of this governing board.
as a member of this governing board.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I will think,
I will think
always,
always
in terms of children first.
in terms of children first.
I will accept the responsibility,
I will accept the responsibility,
along with my fellow board members,
along with my fellow board members,
to see that the maximum
to see that the maximum
of facilities
of facilities
and resources
and resources
is provided for the proper functioning
is provided for the proper functioning
of the Concord schools.
of the Concord schools.
I will refuse to play politics
I will refuse to play politics
in either the traditional partisan
in either the traditional partisan
or in any other sense.
or in any other sense.
I will represent
I will represent
the entire Concord school community
the entire Concord school community
at all times.
at all times.
I will accept the responsibility
I will accept the responsibility
of becoming well-informed
of becoming well-informed
concerning the duties of board members
concerning the duties of board members
and the proper functions of public schools.
and the proper functions of the public schools.
I will recognize
I will recognize
responsibility as a state official
the responsibility as a state official
to seek the improvement of education
to seek the improvement of education
throughout the state of Indiana.
throughout the state of Indiana.
I will attempt to
I will attempt to
fairly appraise both the present
fairly appraise both the present
and future
and future
educational needs of the Concord community.
educational needs of the Concord community.
I will regard
I will regard
interpreting the aims and the methods
interpreting the aims and the methods
of the Concord schools
of the Concord schools
to the Concord community
of the Concord community
as a major responsibility of the board.
as a major responsibility of the board.
I will insist that
I will insist that
all school business transactions
all school business transactions
be an open,
be an open,
ethical,
ethical,
and above-board basis.
and above-board basis.
I will vigorously seek
I will vigorously seek
adequate financial support
adequate financial support
for the Concord school system.
for the Concord school system.
I will refuse to discuss personal matters
I will refuse to discuss personal matters
or any other confidential business of the board
or any other confidential business of the board
in my home,
in my home,
on the street,
on the street,
or in my office.
or in my office.
I will attempt to win
I will attempt to win
the community's confidence
the community's confidence
that all is being done
that all is being done
in the best interest of the school children
in the best interest of the school children
and the Concord schools.
and the Concord schools.
Congratulations. Now we can. Sign the Your turn, Brady.
Yeah, we're gonna ask you kids to repeat all that back.
I solemnly swear. Yes. I brought him here. I was going to bring him
Okay, moving on to 2.1. At this time, the board has the responsibility of reorganizing at this meeting. So I will be facilitating the election of a new slate of officers. So at this time, I would entertain any nominating motions for positions.
I make a motion to approve the organization for 2023 as presented, noting President Cami Waite, Vice President Jennifer Davis, and Secretary Tara Towner, and then the rest as listed.
Also,
Motion and a second. Any questions, any comments? Are all those people okay with that? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, and I think I have one more. Indiana Code 513-7-6 requires school boards in Indiana to organize annually as a finance committee after the first Monday and before the last day in January. Board as a whole becomes the finance committee, and at this meeting must elect or appoint a president and a secretary. The investment officer of the school corporation shall submit an investment report to the finance committee. This report includes a record of the previous year's investments, interest earned, and a review of the school corporation's investment policies. We recommend the appointment of the president and secretary of the board as the president and secretary of the finance committee. This prevents confusion when financial managers require signatures.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Take motion, second.
You're covering the last name.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I will hand the gavel over to.
Good job. All right, that brings us to good things, and tonight that is brought to us from CIS, Mr. Swanson.
Tonight we got Mrs. Lum and her robotics team. They had a very successful fall season with some ups and downs. I don't want to steal their thunder, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to them, let them introduce themselves to you guys, and share with you a brief presentation on their fall season.
Yes, that looks fabulous. I am one of those like arrow advertisers. Here's the selfie. Yeah. Alright, you guys ready? So I'm Mrs. Long, I am the coach, and Mrs. Sotovier is not able to be here today, but she was our other coach, and I'm just gonna let them take it from here. So go ahead, Charlotte. I'm Brady. I'm Vincent. I'm Micah.
Ryan.
And we are the CIS robotics team. So this year we had a very successful season as the CIS robotics team. We then got to go to state after we competed in the regional competition. This year we got to learn about a lot of new things in our season, such as the core values of first likely, coding, and teamwork. We had to go through several hard times that we call day disaster. We had them twice. Our first one was at the first competition where we brought our Chromebooks to the table where we were going to compete at, and the ref said that we were not able to use our computer and we had to download it to our computers. We downloaded it, but someone made an error and it ended up having both codes on, not both codes, ended up having one code on the robot, so the other one wasn't able to go. So what happened was then we weren't able to do our first, 2 missions? Yeah, we weren't able to do our first 2 missions, which was very bad. But when we were done with that, we had enough confidence and grit to code 3 more missions in like 30 minutes, which was amazing. And another one. Our second day disaster was after the competition. All of our code was erased. We had no more code. So we had to recode all of that in like 4 days and then added 3 more codes, which then resulted in a pretty good snake ride. So we were really excited one time at the table because we have coded a dinosaur toy, the hand, and the solar farm. We completed the O-Serenity at the table. Both the regional and the state competitions, they lasted a long time because of all the teams that had to get all this stuff done. They had to talk to the judges, they had to do the robot runs, and so there was a lot of people there. It was kind of crazy. And in our state competition, the final place that we got out of 51 teams was 21st. And we got this advancement ticket from our regionals to go to state, and we also got this judges award for having good teamwork and just having a lot of fun.
For our robot design, we only need one extension to clear all of our needed missions. Our extension is a mechanism that can both push and pull objects. We also add grips to both ends in order to increase the likelihood of grabbing onto things.
Thank you for your time. Do you have any? I'm sorry. That was my fault. So when it comes to shows application for it, we chose a solar cube. We wanted to put them on the both north and south poles. That way it can have energy for all the world. We chose a cube because we wanted to have a lot of energy for all the world. We wanted to have area that is like higher system temperatures, so it could work easily. And we wanted a bunker because in case of emergency, we could make it work quick. And this is like our Lego design about it. This is the solar cube, and this is the Okay, any questions?
How long would it take you to program for one of those missions? You do a couple missions.
Yeah, probably about some are easier than others. Yeah. So some take a lot longer, and some take some are really easy, and some are hard. So it just kind of varies. Yeah. Longest it's taken us like 2 hours, probably. Yeah, it probably varies. It varies from like 10 minutes to 2 hours. Each mission. Yeah, each mission.
How long was the whole day? Did you start at 8 in the morning?
No, that would skip all of 9 hours. And like 9 hours a day. 9 hours like each. Oh,
Your competition day.
Oh, the competition was 9 hours. The competition was 9 hours. The robotics like after school, like
So how quickly can you turn that around so your parents can take a photo of you guys?
We can go top. Okay, wait, let's, okay, back, right there, okay.
Now we can presentation. This time you should have the board members.
You should get.
Oh, gosh.
Miss Long is dying. No, my hair was on the video, it's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You are welcome to stay with your families for the rest of the meeting, or we'll take a quick little pause and you guys can all go enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm sure you're ready to get some homework. Right.
This is the
I did see
most fun it's been.
He was free.
Even with this, you got that. Yeah. So him and
I don't know if I could ever keep up with that energy, Dr. Kendall.
He lives in Arizona.
Right. No, no, no.
I have a picture for you. I got one. Okay.
What's fun about that is they're just, they still have a and yeah, yeah. People are watching you, they're like, he's just like class. Super fun.
How many brownie points do you want?
Oh. How many do you need?
All of them. He's staying, so I feel like. Okay, that was wonderful. Do we have any yellow cards? That brings us to the consent agenda, which this evening includes minutes from 12/12/22, executive minutes from 12/12/22, accounts payable claims, payroll claims and distribution summary report, donations high school, donations K through 6, and human resource report.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Is that the lead into 6.1? All right, I feel like that brings us to 6.1, and that's IDO e-literacy project.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to bring to an opportunity to the board. This year, actually last year, the state received money from the Lilly Foundation in the tune of $111 million. And so with that money, they are partnering with schools to create opportunities for literacy coaches to be in buildings. And today, I'm not asking for action on that, but I wanted to bring it forth to you so that you could hear a little bit about it before we get to that point. What would happen is we've already met with some people from the state to find out a little bit more about the opportunity, but we would, in essence, hire 4 literacy coaches to be in each of our K-4 buildings to support K-2 instruction to support foundational reading. Of course, this aligns greatly with our strategic plan, and so it's something that we're looking forward to. The state would provide 2/3 of their salary and benefits in the first year, and 1/3 of their salary and benefits in the second year. So there is a financial support of the state should we choose to move forward. As I said, it aligns perfectly with what we're doing in terms of reading. It aligns with our reading textbook. It also supports our interventions that we're supporting and that we have in place in our schools. So like I said, I just wanted to come to you today to more or less share this information. Right now, we're in kind of a waiting period where they're reviewing schools to see if we would be chosen as a school to participate in this leadership, literacy cadre. And we hope to know by March if that is a plan. So at that point, I would come to you for approval. But if you have questions at this time, I would be happy to answer any.
So by year 3, it would be 100%.
So by year 3, the state is hopeful that they will find additional resources, financial resources to be able to support this ongoing mission. If not, then we would have to make the decision as to whether or not we continued with literacy coaches beyond 2 years, or if those staff members were, happened to move back into classrooms or such. So this is a 2-year commitment. This is not a long term at this point. And then we would reassess that 2 years from now should we choose to move forward.
Before March, could you remind us what the average literacy coach and what this would, what it cost?
It would,
if we took it all on?
yes, yeah, we will definitely do that. There are some options as to what that would look like, but we will hold it.
Is the grant the same value for schools regardless of size or?
It is.
More money? Okay.
It is. So it's 2/3 salary and benefits, and then schools have some leeway on what the salary and benefits are. So that would depend on how much money was going to a school, but it's no different from one school to the next, assuming that they're approved.
Yes.
I just reiterate the strategic plan. There's a lot of data that if students are not reading well by the time they leave first and second grade, then it's much harder. And so I think from our standpoint, it shows a commitment on the part of the school district to invest in early literacy to make sure we're getting that right. And as we pour into these folks and we build our own capacity, 2 years from now, we may not need that anymore. We may, have enough folks that are well trained in house, but it's pretty exciting, especially if they're going to pay that much of it. So.
Thank you.
That brings us to 7.1, a technology department update. Mr. Stevens. No music for you?
Sorry.
Go.
Good evening. I'm coming to you tonight with a little update from the technology department, as well as talking about our next student device. So, since I took over in August in this position, we've been working on a lot of different things. The first thing we've been looking at is kind of cleanup. We're finding areas of concern. Some of those are finding us before we find them, which is great. We've been performing much needed updates. Actually, over Christmas break, we updated a lot of our behind the scenes systems. We updated our firewall, even though they're brand new, it's time for an update, so we updated those. We're working through updating our virtual machines, our behind the scenes things that run some of our HVAC systems, our Wi-Fi pieces. We're getting all those updated. And we are working on updating our cybersecurity plan and systems that go along with that. There's been a lot of uptick in the news lately about cybersecurity attacks on companies and specifically schools. There was one up in Michigan not long ago, one at a school district over towards Chicago. So we're getting things in place so we are well taken care of if that were to happen to us. We're also updating our support contracts, making sure that we have the support we need when things happen, if they were to happen. We went through a 5-star audit. 5-star is a company out of Indianapolis that we've used before. So they came back and they did kind of an audit. They popped the hood, looked deep into our systems. They did that in mid-December. We don't have the results back from that with the holiday, but we'll be getting that back and using that to kind of guide us as we go. And then, like I mentioned before, we're working on a cybersecurity push, just making sure we're up to date. But that also, includes educating the staff on when you get a suspicious email, don't click on it if you don't know, and some training on that. As we move forward, we're going to work on kind of creating a database of everything we have. Most of this is kind of behind the scenes software kind of things. We have a very robust database of our physical inventory. But now I really want to be able to look at things and say, this is what we have, this is what we got it. This is the last time it was updated, this is its life expectancy, to kind of be able to roll into the next point of creating a multi-year plan. So we know when things are coming up, they need to be updated, when they need to be upgraded, and those kind of things. So the department's really working on that. And finally, with all of those things, we're working on a system to kind of oversee those projects. Some of those will be bigger projects that will take small bites out of each year in preparation for the bigger things. So we're working on something like that. So that's my kind of update for you. I would like to throw out there that coming in August, the team that I've got is just absolutely amazing. None of this could be possible without them working behind the scenes, even the ones that aren't seen out in the buildings every day. They want what's best for kids, and they're all doing great things to help us move forward. So, if that have any questions on this part of it before we move into the student device?
Is your update all pretty much done, or is it going to keep going and you're always going to be doing something?
Oh, we'll always be updating things. We're kind of looking at what's right now. One of the updates we did over the break is going to come in parts. So we did the first phase of it now. We'll be moving into the next phase. We've got some things looking at to maybe update over winter break when there's no one around, using that time. So kind of spreading it out so we get it all. But it'll be a constant.
Yep.
Once we get done with everything, then it'll be time to start.
Save yourself and you update it in the next day.
Yep, totally good.
All right, moving on. So this is the year that we need to start talking about a student device refresh. If you remember, for our 7 through 12 students, this is year 5 with those Chromebooks, which is actually kind of a year past what their life expectancy is. Usually it's a 4-year cycle. This is year 4 for our K-6 devices. So we have started moving towards what we're going to do next. Where are we going with this? So we started back at the beginning of this year. In October, we put together a committee of teachers throughout the district, department, grade levels, K through 12, administrators and district administrators. We met with both Google and Apple to hear the updates. It's been 5 or 6 years since we've done this. The update between Chromebooks and iPads and those kinds of things. In mid-December, we were fortunate enough to be able to take a small group. We got invited to Chicago to hear an Apple briefing to kind of deep dive into what they have to offer. Mid-December, we met just as a whole group, just Concord people, no outside, just what are we thinking, what have we heard, what are kind of just flushing out any of those what if kind of things. We're here in January now to present, to just kind of inform you of our recommendation, which I'll get to here in a second, but as we keep going, the idea would be with whatever device we go with, I want to start working with vendors in February to get an order date so that we get them soon enough that we can get them all ready to go with plenty of time for that. I'd really like by March to have these new devices in the hands of teachers, so we give them as much lead time as possible to get familiar with it, to get used to it, to kind of play around with it, see how it would work. Summer, we plan on providing teacher PD. Even if we stay with Chromebooks, again, it's been 5 years, we've got a lot of new teachers, a lot of new administrators. We need some professional development for our teachers if we stay or if we change devices. Obviously, summer would also be when our tech team would prepare for deployment. It's going to take some time to get 5,000 new devices ready to go. And then with the end goal of having new devices in students' hands in August. We put out a survey for all staff and 7 through 12th grade students to get some feedback. Made this little chart of pretty much the features, the important features to us here at Concord, and kind of broke down between Chromebook and iPad. It kind of came down to those two. The only other real option was a Windows device, and that comes with a lot of other back-end kind of things. So we narrowed it down to Chromebook and iPad. As you can see here, both of these devices really check off most of the things that we were looking for. The one in the parent control spot there for Chromebook, I'll get to here in a little bit. But that was really it. They were very comparable when we talked about the features that we were looking for from both our students and our teachers. When we look at the price, one of the big misconceptions is that iPads are way more expensive. And in fact, the device itself comes in a little bit cheaper, especially with the device that we were looking at as far as Chromebooks. 6 years ago, when the leadership made the decision on the Chromebooks and the specific Chromebooks we have, they got really nice ones. They were really good. They were set up for us for 4 years, so they were a little bit more expensive than what other schools may go for. If we were to go Chromebooks, I wouldn't want to go backwards on that. I want to make sure that we're still as successful with that. So as you can kind of see, this is also a price breakdown for just student devices. We'll add in teachers once we have numbers, who's all getting them, how many leading versus so you can kind of look down through there. I have two different ones for Chromebook because when it comes to Chromebooks, we would have to put it out to bid and look at different companies, where Apple is the only one that sells iPad, so we can go right with that. Some of those things do like the warranty, there's like a slash, different prices. That's just dependent on which company we go with for the warranty. Both companies that like Apple and Lenovo would provide theirs. We could also look at third-party ones, and so that's what the second slash is. Case, the accessories, all those kinds of different things. There's some back-end licensing that we have to have for both devices, regardless. It's different for each one. We have to have some sort of licensing for that. And the interesting thing there at the end is the total resale value. So right now, if we had 4-year-old iPads to turn in, we'd get right around $100 a piece for them. Chromebooks would range anywhere from $5 to $45, depending on their condition. Our first generation ones, the 7 through 12, they're in their 5th year, would only go between 5 and 20 to 25. Our second generation ones would get a little bit higher, but no more than $45. So our return would be a little bit better at the end of our 4 years. So with that, the committee kind of came together, and the recommendation kind of, we're just kind of informing you of tonight, is that we go with iPad. It would be an iPad 9th generation with a keyboard case and a trackpad, looks just like this. And a Lenovo Crayon, which is the equivalent to an Apple Pencil, but it's an education version. It doesn't roll off the desk. It's a little bit bigger, fatter, harder to lose. It's got a nice little slot here for it.
Harder to lose.
Yes. Usually a little bit harder to lose. It really came down to the capabilities of the iPad. I kind of looked back and thought, well, why did we not go iPad 4 years ago? What has changed? And Apple has come a long way with their iPad and what we can do. It really comes down to we can do almost everything that we did on a Chromebook on this iPad, plus the features of the iPad that we have with that. So it was about a 90% on the recommendation from teachers, the committee that came together. 90% of them recommended this. When it came to students, they had a couple of different questions that I asked them about the features. The last question that I asked them was, what would you rather have? And I was very specific in that if you have a Chromebook, you have basically the newer model of what we have now, stylus, flip around, 2 cameras. If we went iPad, don't think you can log into it with your personal iTunes account. So don't think iPad just because you want to log in and do that. It's still going to be managed. You're not going to have the App Store, just the approved apps, all that kind of stuff. It was about 69% students said iPad, about 32-ish% said Chromebook. The 2 biggest reasons that students wanted, because I made them justify it too. The next question was, explain your answer to me. The students really want something with a better battery life and a little bit slimmer and lighter weight to carry around their backpack and to have on their desk. Of the students that said Chromebook, the majority of them just said they didn't want to change, that they gotten used to their Chromebooks and they just weren't looking to change them. There were other specific things. There were some specific students who said, I want iPad because I want to be able to do this and this and this, and I had some very specific requests. But the overall piece was lightweight, battery life will last a little bit longer, get through the day. That would improve either way because we're at 5 years with our Chromebooks right now, so they're a little bit rough on battery. But the iPad does have a little bit battery life. The last thing I have on the two is, again, professional development. Apple has a really nice professional development program that we're looking into and how we want to do that. On top of that, our 2 digital learning specialists are, one is already an Apple learning coach, and the other one is already moving towards that. Since we already have Apple or iPads in the K1, they felt the need to go through that, which is fantastic. So they've made it to those hurdles. By the time we roll around, they'll both be Apple learning coaches and be ready to handle whatever comes out.
Can you tell the board how Apple professional development is different?
Yeah, so that would be a little bit different because it's not just a sit down. Teachers wouldn't come into a room like this with the presenter up front and just kind of listen to a lecture. Apple will come in with their learning specialists and actually guide alongside in the classrooms. So the PD would happen in the fall where they will come into classrooms, work with teachers, work with maybe departments or grade levels, and kind of work that way with them and right in the classes and show them, kind of take over from sometimes, show here's how I might do this. So that's a really engaging piece to it too. It's like in the field kind of training. The other piece that I didn't put up there is with this, we would also get Apple TVs for every classroom. Now that is not a television set like this. It's a little black box that connects HDMI to the back that we're actually using right now, so I can wirelessly connect to this. And so with the crayon back here, teachers would be able to detach from the front and detach from the podium and be able to walk around and draw on their screen. So their desk is really right here. They're no longer tethered to the front. They're no longer tethered to their desk. If they want to walk around and they're doing a math problem and they say, Mrs. Warren, why don't you do the next math problem? They can hand it right off to the student can do it. Or they can see on their iPad what the other students are doing and say, I really like what Mrs. Warren is doing. Let me throw that up there and have see the students. So there's a really cool engagement pieces that would come with that. The last thing that I forgot is I have up there Jamf teacher and parent apps. Basically what this is since students won't have access to the App Store, Jamf will be kind of what I call our Concord App Store. It'll just be what gets approved. Only apps that get approved will be put in the Concord App Store and be able to be downloaded. We have that right now with another piece, but we'll be switching to this because of some of the controls that comes with it. For one, for teachers, right now, for K1, if they get an app approved and it's put in our Concord App Store, if they want their students to download it, they have to touch every device. So either we take time in class and say, okay, kids, I want you to download this app. Everybody go to the App Store, find that. No, that red one over there. Or they got to say, leave them all out during recess. I'm going to come around and touch all of them. With Jamf, a teacher gets it approved. It goes to the App Store. They can hit it from their device, and it downloads on all of their student devices, which I think they'll really like. The added feature, which I think is going to be really big for our parents, is that we're going to be able to put some control in the hands of them now, which we don't have with Chromebooks right now. With the parent app, the parents are going to get control of the iPads once they leave school for the day. So in the evenings, they're going to be able to control screen time, and they're going to be able to control what apps they can use and what they can't use from that on their phone. And that's not something that's doable at the moment with Chromebooks. Of course, it's coming. It's not, advanced there. But I think that would be a really big piece for our parents, that they will really enjoy that piece of it. The nice thing with that too is the teacher and parent will never have to fight over control. We'll set up schedules, so between this time and this time, teacher has control. Between this time and this time, parent has control. So it's not like a parent puts in a rule, kid comes back to school the next day, the rule's in place because parent didn't release it, it'll all take care of that. So I think between those two things, our teachers and parents will really enjoy those two features especially.
On a bad weather day, would that change?
We'll be able to
control. So
we can even
we
go
call
in,
a snow day, and then we all so we know that we could go in and
turn it off, and then the same thing. We can plug in all of the calendar days. So Christmas break, parents have it control. Martin Luther King Day coming up, even though it's a Monday, parents will have control. We can plot that out ahead of time, so that that's already scheduled. We don't forget to do that.
summer vacation.
Right.
Talking about destruction, which we weren't, but I have 2-year-olds, so destruction's always on my mind. I see, is that the case we're handing K through 6?
Yep.
Have they given any kind of feedback on destruction, drop tests and stuff like that?
We've only had, I believe, 2, maybe 3 of our K1 students already go through have to get a new one. One of them was a defect, which is under manufacturer warranty, so we were able to just get them back in. The other one was kind of malicious. The keys are completely covered in silicone, so even if you spill something on that, it's not getting in between there. They're not plucking them off, which they do right now with their Chromebooks. Well, it just fell off. Well, this one's not falling off. Take something to it and do that. So it's a little, this piece is a little bit on the flimsier side, but I think that it's either folded one way or the other. So that I think we'll be able to manage on those pieces. As far as the break on this, we go through AppleCare. So we would have Apple would repair all of the devices for us. So they're using the right materials to do it, not third-party materials. We're getting quality stuff back, which helps with the resale value at the end. If we were to do a third-party company that would replace them, then at the end we don't know what kind of screen they use, what kind of ports they use, those kind of things. But as long as we stick with Apple and use their protection plan, then that helps us.
Security-wise, because I know teenagers are as far as Apple on their end, are they constantly keeping track of what teenagers have been able to do?
Oh yeah, and on top of that, our current filtering system will still apply to this, just like they're filtered on our Chromebooks right now. That still happens on this. And then teachers will be able to monitor, they'll have an app called Apple Classroom, where they'll be able to see everyone's screens. They can force kids into apps, they can lock them into specific apps, or they can lock the whole thing down, that you're not using it at all. So our same filtering systems will still be in place.
Because I guess I'm thinking more of like, well, but proxies were always a problem for computers and stuff like that. Is that something?
Yeah, Apple's actually on the leading edge of those kinds of things. So your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac is a little bit more advanced than Chromebooks and Google.
This little crayon is that the only crayon that works with this, or can we buy a couple in Chicago off a guy?
Yeah, so you can, there are other ones out there. So one of the ideas that we have for replacement on these when we go with all, because every student will get one of those as well. Our plan is every student will get one. We will have more here if they get lost, damaged, whatever, parents can buy them. But then we're also, I'm gonna test out some like off-brand ones and kind of give parents some options. Like you can purchase a new one of these if you'd like, or here are some options that are off-brand, a little bit cheaper, that work really well with it. You can do that. You can go out and buy the little ones at the Walgreens with the little nubbin on the end, or every kid comes with 10 of these and they will work just fine on it too. So we want to give options. We don't have those options right now with our little ThinkPads because only one type fits in the little garage on the side. This will be able to offer some options. This one does have to be charged, but it's the same charger as the iPad. So it's 2 devices, but only 1 charger.
And is the charger unique to this, or is it?
No, it's a lightning charger just like every iPhone. For the moment, Apple's doing that little thing where they're switching. But if you've got an iPhone charger at home, you've got an iPad charger.
Earbuds or earphones, does that have the traditional slot, or is it one of those?
No. Got the regular one right there. Yep. And the students will be able to connect their Bluetooth if they got Bluetooth ones to it. That would be capable.
And I'm sure you guys did this, but other districts are using Chrome or iPad or?
Yeah, so we looked around. In fact, a group of us went over to Elkhart. Elkhart's been using it now for several years. So we've been in contact with them on how they do it. We've been in contact with some schools now around Indy that are using them in different ways. So we're always looking for feedback on different things on how their different schools are handling the different aspects of it.
So when a student comes from there to here, they can just bring their device.
It's for us, it's hard to
I feel like this has been answered, but I also just want to clarify. One of our biggest reasons why we went this way and not that way is testing at the time. Apple did not support our testing and everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I was told that was all.
Yeah, they've come a
figured
long
out.
way.
Okay.
In fact, we just updated them all. Isaiah left like 20 minutes ago, making sure he is already over Wednesday.
Okay.
So we've got the specs for all of that to make sure that can happen as well. Okay. One of the other things that wasn't overly easy on this back then was like the use of Google. We're a Google school and we're not changing from Google. We're going to stay with that. Back then and still today, the Google apps on an iPad just aren't the greatest. They're clunky. You can get it all done, but it's just a little bit more difficult to find the different toolbars and Google Docs and stuff. Apple has changed their Safari browser, which is their internet browser, the same as Chrome. I think brand names Chrome, Safari, it's the same. But on iPad, they've upgraded to a full web, a full desktop browser. So now we don't need Google Apps. We don't have to download them on this. They go to Safari and it looks the same as it does on Chromebook. You have the same toolbars across the top. It looks identical, which plays into that piece of this does almost everything our Chromebooks do, and then some, then a lot, not some.
Can you repair them here, whatever?
There's a program that we can eventually go through, but you have to be Apple certified to be able to repair them. And so we have to send them out to someone certified, so we'll stick with Apple on that. So for the time being,
but eventually,
yeah, we could look into programs. There are schools that have that. They have their technicians trained. Apple comes in, trains them on how to do that. Right now, we're not going to go with that. We're going to send them out. But down the road, we could look.
Is there any way that you can show data how many hours they're logging in as a corporation that were being used? Just curious. We saw this before, but it's been a bit.
Yeah, we can pull that out.
Because offline, I get it. Sure, I can't see that, but on.
So we have to send these units to Apple to get them fixed or whatever. What's the turnaround time?
It's about 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
But we'll have a spare pool. So kids will go at the building level right now, the repair process will operate the same way. The student's got one that's not working or broke or whatever reason, they'll come to the repair cart, they'll just get another one right there, that's theirs, it's not loaner. We send this one in, this one just goes back into our spare. So when it comes back, it's back out, so
So they,
kids aren't waiting.
kids never have to, or, okay, they don't have to swap back, they're just, okay.
They did that, like, I think the first year when we had Chromebooks, there was this loaner thing, we had to keep track of where's this one,
And now you just get it.
Now it's just we swap on them, because we don't get the actual same device back. They send us back like a refurbished one. We're sending you a broken one, they're gonna fix it and send it back out. So it's not like the exact same device comes back anyways. So we can just kind of keep this flow going so no one's ever waiting on it. Any questions?
So we're not asking for any action tonight. This is just a presentation for you to chew on for a couple weeks. We will come back at the second meeting in January. Reminder, we set aside probably about half of the cost of this in ESSER funds. And so we have that grant. In addition, we were awarded a $750,000 grant from the FCC as well. And so we will have a little small piece of it that we'll ask to use referendum funds to pay for. But that's why it's there, it's for kids. So.
Can our K2 students already have them? So cut off about 870, not have them, because they're right here.
Thank you. A lot of great information, thank you.
That brings us to item 8.1, Dr. Molnar.
Thank you, everybody, for having me up tonight. Thank you, President White, Mr. Funston, members of the Board of School Trustees. I am looking for approval for a memorandum of understanding between Concord Community Schools and the Startup Moxie program of Elkhart County. This is a program that's open to juniors and seniors at the high school level to earn high school and college credit while working through the design thinking process, that's their words, not mine, to create potential solutions to problems in Elkhart County. Essentially what it is it's a entrepreneurship program. We already have 2 students that are involved and it's highly successful. They do some amazing things. As you can see in your board packet, these students would tour 20 to 30 businesses, hear 40 to 50 guest speakers. All of these are community leaders, business leaders here in Elkhart County, really doing some amazing things. And the hope and the intent of this program is to get kids to identify an area of need in Elkhart County and actually work to create a startup. Some of the things that they tout, you can earn 4 high school credits in addition to 16 dual credits through Ivy Tech. And after that, after earning those 16 credits, you'll get a certificate of entrepreneurship through Ivy Tech. So there is some micro-credentialing involved here. Other things to consider, this is our box 2 for our graduation pathways, project-based learning. Plus, this is our box 3 as well. These are students that are looking at doing credit, honors type courses, so this would fill that as well. But some of the things that are not part of your board packet, but are touted on the website that I just wanted to kind of bullet point. You hear from community leaders about business ventures, life experiences, and perspectives on the Elkhart and South Bend area. Be challenged to generate ideas and refine them, tour behind the scenes of local businesses, learn how to de-risk ideas and launch their startups, pitch to investors, understand the value of creativity, courage, and confidence in business, and build a professional network. For a student that is shooting for a business major in college, somebody that is looking for engineering, somebody that is looking at one of those fields, what amazing experience, first-hand experience for these kids. It really is a successful program. Again, we have 2 students that are already involved and looking for approval for this.
Okay, motion to approve the MOU between Concord and Startup Moxie.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mr. Mulrooney. Any comments or questions for Dr. Mulrooney?
So how many students, you have 2 students now, how many students do you see?
So
Or do you have other kids who are kind of in the queue, like, hey,
Yeah,
this is
so-
approved, we're gonna
So
look at.
we're going to do a really aggressive push to get more kids involved. Right now, Goshen has like 5 students, Northridge has 3, Elkhart has, I want to say 7 or 8. It's much more, they have higher numbers in the St. Joe version than the Elkhart version. So I think there's a collective push at the Elkhart County Startup Moxie to get more kids involved because it really is an amazing.
Do they have like a maximum, like for Elkhart County, okay, it's gonna be X number of students, no matter where they come from?
I think they're going to keep supporting us, and once they get to that kind of cutoff number, they'll let us know.
Okay.
I think more than anything, they want us to do this.
I know quite a few kids that have gone through this, even, it's just a very wonderful program. You know, one of the students last year came up with a Kevlar folder for school shoot. Like it's a really, really great program. Plus the person who runs it now is a Concord grad. Kind of a nice little full circle moment there. But yeah, this is very exciting. I think it's a great opportunity for our kids and it's exciting.
Out of curiosity, does Elkhart County one and the St. Joe County one operate separate from each other, or is it kind of overseen by the same?
They're overseen by the RISE, Regional Innovation and Startup Education is the kind of the entity that oversees both. But they just understand that St. Joe County has different needs in Elkhart and different business interests, so they just really wanted to kind of have a laser focus on the needs of that community.
Very well.
Yeah, I've known some participants in this program through Northridge, and they all spoke very highly of it. Very impressed with it.
And we're really excited about it.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Dr. Muller. Dr. Kindle, 8.2, no music.
No music, sorry. All right, so I'm here this evening seeking approval for an update in policy when it comes to our junior high school students that are taking high school credits. So one of the things that we're really pushing this year as we schedule for next year is to give more of our junior high students access to high school credits. So with graduation pathways, there's less and less room for students to explore prior to getting towards the end of high school. So we want to give students opportunities to take more high school courses. And so what we plan, or what we're seeking for your approval to do, is offer these classes and provide students an opportunity to grow and retake the course should they come out at the end of the semester with a score that they're not necessarily happy with. So for example, if I'm a student, I'm like, I want to try Spanish 1 or French 1 because those are two of the places that we're really pushing more and more students to take high school classes sooner. So at the end of the semester, if I get a score that I'm not necessarily happy with, and I don't want that on my high school transcript, then I have an opportunity to decline that grade and retake that course once I get to high school. So that way we have a fallback for students because essentially you're taking the risk of taking high school classes early, and we don't want students to get in a position where they're too scared to do it, knowing that it's going to be on their permanent record. I see a quizzical face.
No, is that it for your?
Yeah, keep asking questions, that might
Oh,
help.
no, I love it. I think it's a great idea. I will make a motion to approve this, and then I'll have some questions.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Towner. Go, Mr. Yoder.
So you said the student can say, I don't want to do this.
With their parents'
Yeah.
blessing, yes.
So they say, I don't want to take this, they don't take it, meaning 3 years of Spanish, and they think, oh, I took that in 8th grade.
So it would be articulated, so there would be an actual formal process of
Yep.
when they don't have a score recorded, that they understand, you will have to take this if you want certain to meet certain
Makes
requirements.
sense. I was just needing you to
Yes.
verify that.
Yeah, that'll definitely.
Right now, if they, just to clarify, if they took it again in high school, that grade from junior high would still count on their high school transcript. In this case, it won't. Got it.
So they decided semester, then what are they going to do? Oh, this is not for me, fine, what are they going to do second semester? So then you would schedule them into something different in the junior high school, yeah. I mean, is it like in college, but we got a drop date?
Yep.
Do you have a hard and fast drop date? So I wouldn't say the hard and fast drop date is by the time we post grades at the end of the semester. So like for this first semester, grades are due in January. So you have to make that decision because once grades are posted to transcripts, you don't want to change those. So once that deadline comes, And to be honest with you, while it might not, they might get what you would see on their transcript is an N for a no grade. So while they might not get a grade, it's still an awesome, rigorous experience. And so that's what we want to provide junior high school students prior to high school.
Once I ended the strategic plan, our graduate profiles perseverance and teaching our kids to try hard things. They may fail and they may have to pick themselves up and do it again, but it's one policy we have in place that we think changing it will help us develop that perseverance in kids. So.
And I wanted to say, well, the reason why I brought up Spanish and French is because typically we would offer what's called exploratory Spanish and French, but we're at a point, like if you're going to explore it, it's essentially the same thing as starting the first year of that high school language, so we might as well dive in and write it.
I would agree. Absolutely, 100%.
I'm excited about this. I think this is great. I love that we're opening up this opportunity. Who owns this? So is it Cami Waite student tracking? I'm not happy with my grade. My parent, the counselor tapping the teacher. Like, who owns your grades? Probably you might want to rethink this.
So it'll start with the student's teacher because there's certain target benchmark dates that I'm going to get them in the habit of meeting with the class and saying, okay, we're looking at our grades. Is this where we want to be? Do we want this on our transcript? Let's think about this. Then we loop in the junior high counselor and the parent, obviously. So when it comes to owning it, while the student, there's some ownership, they're also junior high students. So there's going to be an adult aspect as far as the teacher and the counselor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Dr. Kendall. That brings us to item 9.1, which tonight is first reading board policy.
Yep, so just a reminder, most districts in the state of Indiana and across the nation use a service called Neola. Neola helps districts update their board policies for a couple reasons. Court cases that determine precedent, civil rights determinations, investigations, new laws. There are a variety of things that would cause us to want to change a policy to stay in compliance. We go through two major updates a year. One major update in the fall, which is now has been reviewed and is being presented to you for first reading tonight, not for approval. And then we do another one in the spring, which then usually you'll see in the summer sometime. So we do have Mrs. Davis is our policy board member. She, a representative from Neola, typically comes here, but the last one I think might have been virtual. But a meeting is held with Neola, Mr. Boyer, Mrs. Davis, Carla, who is our policy expert as well, and then typically me. I did miss the last meeting. It reviews all of those, what the options are based on those laws and policies. After all that is done, we will take those policy recommendations and provide them to the department head in this office. And so if it's dealing with human resources, Mr. Boyer will review that policy. If it's instructional, Mr. Myers. If it's board related, I'll look at it. We kind of divide that up. Carla takes all of that. So you'll see in your packet there things that are red line. You'll see the green. The green is the recommendation Neola is making. The red is what they're suggesting goes out. Sometimes it's just a word. Other times it's not. The process then for the board to do this is I present these to you as recommendations in a first reading, and then there's a 2-week period where you have an opportunity to ask questions after you've read them before we would bring it for actual action at the second meeting in January. So I'd encourage any of you, if you have specific questions about any of those, you can reach out to me, probably Mr. Boyer as well, Mrs. Davis as well. Any of the three of us could answer those questions. So most of the ones you'll see in front of you now are dealing with I'd say a lot of them are legislative, not as heavy on Supreme Court cases as they usually are. But there's nothing being presented to you tonight that's not coming from the OLA. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you. That brings us to Mr. Evans, 10.1.
Thank you. This is great. One of the things that we have to do every year is to provide an investment report showing the money that has been earned on all accounts. As you can see, for 2022, just under $100,000. And most of that also was because of the money that we have invested or on account ballots at Teachers Credit Union. You're a very sophisticated and knowledgeable school board, and we've just recently updated that agreement with TCU. So you are all very familiar with this whole process and know how that works. So that will be in effect for another 5 years, taking effect the beginning of November of 2022. So that's the 2022 investment report. Let me answer your question.
I would probably just remind everybody that the sponsorship agreement with TCU, they're donating or sponsoring $50,000 a year for 10 years, so $500,000 to the improvement of our athletic facilities. That is above and beyond the interest income here. So.
Any questions for Mr. Evans? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 11.1, Mr. Boyer.
Good evening. Thank you
Oh,
for.
wait. You're right, I skipped. Sorry, Mr. Boyer.
You're not up yet.
You're not up yet. No, I have 10.2 item, annual fiscal indicator. I have another,
Okay.
but that's not on here, so that's why I missed it.
My good mistake.
So, I mean, you can stand it there, but I need Mr. Evans to come back up.
Oh, I got you.
Sorry, I was going off of this roadmap, and you were not on here.
I was confused.
So I look at my computer. So yeah, 10.2, you have an annual fiscal indicator review, please, sir.
Yes.
Very well.
Sorry, everybody.
I think we should be. All right. There we go. We are required by the, do have, I'm trying to think, Department of Distress Review Board, to provide a fiscal indicators report each year. Before I say anything else, I want to just note that this report is based on information that's available on the DUAB website. And you'll notice that those are basically numbers that are a year old. So in about a month, probably the first month of February, I'll come back with a more detailed, specific report that is based on the calendar year 2022 numbers. So most of these indicators are essentially a year old. So as we go through that, just keep that in mind, and maybe we'll have more up-to-date numbers very soon. The first chart we look at is average daily membership, ADM, what we call that. As we know, that's where we get our, basically our funding for the education fund. As you can see, there's some ups and some downs, but generally speaking, fairly, run close, no big jumps, no big drops, although, for us, any drop feels like a big drop. But in the whole scheme of things, our ABM, is pretty consistent from one year to the next. As you can see, again, the numbers that are up there are, the most recent numbers are the fall of 21 and spring of 2022. Obviously, we've got the fall of 22 numbers, and we'll have another ABM count coming up here in another month or so for 2023. So, and we would anticipate, again, not a lot of change from the trend that you see here. Fund balances basically show all the funds. And as you can see, reflecting changes that occurred in 2019, changing in terms of the types of funds and how funds are broken out. The couple things just to note, the funds that would be below the line or negative would be federal funds, because we always spend federal funds on a reimbursement basis. In other words, we spend the money first and then request reimbursement. So at any particular time, that's always going to be a negative because we can never receive a reimbursement for something that we haven't spent. So we spend it, get reimbursement, and so the funds that you can see that are negative are federal stimulus funds and other federal funds. So that's the reason for that. This report, the only thing I would note is that if you look at 2021, there's what they're calling both revenue and expenditure exceptions. That's the kind of the yellow and the red at the top of the green and the blue, green and the blue bar. Basically, that's money that's considered an exception because it's actually accounted for in other places. But what shows up here is the way that we, for instance, account for the money that goes in and out of our health insurance trust is considered an exception because we basically count it twice because of the way that we account for that. The other large part of that is the money that we transfer from the education fund to the operations fund. So the money shows up as both an expenditure and revenue, but we then transfer that, so that transfer shows as an exception. So that's money that's accounted for. It shows up on the Form 9 or financial statement, but it's not really. We didn't get all that money. That's not all revenue. That's not all expenditure. So I hope that explains what those numbers mean. And then I think this is the final chart. That is the fund balances as a percent of expenditures. And so you can see that we've had some growth in those. Again, this is still the 2021 calendar year. These are all calendar year, January, December numbers. So that's good that we see those cash balances or those fund balances growing as a percent of the expenditures. Oh, I'm sorry, one final chart. This just shows the revenue by type. As you can see, the largest amount of revenue that comes in is the state revenue. That's going to be part of the basic grant, not the education fund, and then the orange at the bottom of tax revenue or property taxes. This shows operating revenue or operating revenue. Since we don't have operating revenue, since we're not receiving any revenue from the referendum anymore, this chart doesn't really apply to us at this point. In summary, I would say that first point would be that our income is stable, and that's good. We don't have huge increases or decreases. So that allows us to be able to plan with some confidence. Our year-end cash balances remain stable, and so they are somewhat predictable in that sense. And number three, circuit breaker remains a concern. And I don't know if that will change, but that is something that we monitor and have to plan for on an ongoing basis. Overall, I would say the fiscal indicators for Concord Community Schools would indicate stable financial position. And we have to answer any questions.
It's an easy question because I know you know the answer, but all the charts. Remind me, what year did they go to education fund and operate?
2019.
Okay, so if you see all these charts and graphs, then some would go away. It's nothing we did.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Evans? Thank you very much. Now I think you're really done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Boyer. Sorry about that.
No, thanks again. I appreciate your attendance. This has been a considerable agenda. I think I'm last to go here, so.
I'm after, so save some time.
Oh, great. I'll save you some time. So I've got a proposal for addressing our ongoing shortage of substitute teachers. So I've got some data here briefly to share with you to sort of underscore the challenges and the trends that we're experiencing. You can see here that I've got the last 4.5 school years. I would caution you to take 19, 20, and 2021, with a grain of salt, simply because those were both COVID years, and those numbers are impacted by that. But if you look at that first column where it says absences, those are the number of teacher absences that we have been that substitutes have been requested to fill. We have some cases where teachers are absent and we don't need substitute for them based on their position or the particular day that they're missing. There are circumstances in which no sub is needed. So again, those absences are the numbers of absences we've had in which we've needed subs for. And then the other two columns that are most interesting there in the will sub filled and the unfilled are the percentages of the numbers and the percentages of those absences that are filled by our will sub substitutes. So will sub filled are the will sub is the third party that we contract with that hires and provides our substitute teachers. So you can see there, 18, 19, and then 21, 22. That's you take out those 2 years that were impacted by COVID. You can see that more and more we're experiencing a significant increase in the number of teacher absences that are going unfilled. They're not being filled by WillSub. That's common. We get monthly reports from WillSub. This is how many substitute teachers we have. They also serve BOGO and other corporations within the county, the region. In some cases, we're sharing that pool of substitutes, and this is common. So that sort of underscores the shortage. Then this provides a snapshot then of substitute costs. So when we have teachers absent and have to pay substitutes, or we have to pay our own employees some supplemental pay to fill in for us, this just shows you what we've spent over the last 4 years really. Total in substitute costs, and then what that has cost us and what we've paid will sub, and then what we've paid our own internal employees. So, we have instances where teachers are covering multiple classes. We are using our own paraprofessionals and pulling them from their duties and assigning them to classrooms to make sure that those classrooms are filled. So you can see the total costs. Again, 18-19 was the last full year. We were filling 85.6% of our positions through will sub. Our costs that year for substitutes were $568,000. That was about $144.34 per absence. Then you can see those COVID years, obviously the numbers went down just because the number of absences that need to be filled decreased. But then last year you can see, though we had a 53.2%, we saw a significant decrease in the number of positions filled by will sub, therefore a significant cost decrease. By filling those internally, our internal costs were going up while our will sub costs were going down. So you can see last year we paid $329 to will sub instead of $517, but we went from $51,000 that we pay our own internal employees to cover positions to $223,000. And then again, there you can see the dollar per absence that it's costing us to sub our class or to staff our classrooms. So here's just a few things that we know. I'm going to show you a little bit of the proposal and the cost of the proposal. You're going to see an increase. The increase is not a result of what we're proposing. It's a result of the sheer number of absences that we're seeing from our teachers. So we know they're missing more days of school, and we are addressing that within the Thriving Staff pillar of our strategic plan, so that we're doing more to take care of our people and reduce the absences that we're experiencing. With our current plans to compensate our teachers, as you saw there, the numbers are changing, but the cost per absence, our substitute costs in that regard remain relatively unchanged over the last 4.5 years. And this, though this is very difficult to quantify, we know that when we put 2 classes of kids together with 1 teacher, or we put a paraprofessional in the classroom to cover for a teacher, or when we cancel a class and pool kids in the gymnasium because we don't have a teacher substitute, we know that that is having a negative impact on student learning. Again, it's hard to quantify that, but when we don't have quality, effective teachers with our students, that certainly is impacting the quality of instruction we're receiving. So here's the proposal. The proposal we feel the solution we feel is best by trying to accomplish a few different things. So one, as I said, the increase in the number of days of school that teachers are missing is cause for concern. And so again, as part of our strategic plan and the Thriving Staff pillar, we're looking at ways to increase wellness opportunities and other preventative health incentives and things like that to address that and reduce the number of absences, so we get that back to what we were seeing prior to COVID. We'd like to post and hire 3 permanent substitute teacher positions. These would be employees of ours, and we would hire 2 that would be at the high school and 1 that would be at the junior high 4 days a week. And when the principals and the office staff come in and look at the daily absences and see what positions are unfilled, they've got those 2 permanent people that are there ready to plug holes. If we paid $150 a day, 4 days a week, that would keep them below the threshold in which we would have to offer them anywhere between $6,000 and $20,000 additional in benefits. And each of those would cost us about $23,500 per year if we did that. We'd like to incentivize our current will substitutes. We currently have 179 and we have 17 in processing within our pool. But if you look at that pool, only about 25 of those are subbing like 20 days or more. So we need to take advantage of the people that we have in there. So how can we incentivize that? There are some corporations that are having some great luck with providing semi-annual service bonuses. So if we have somebody, and we had 2 that subbed more than 50 days that first semester, we would offer them a $500 semi-annual stipend. Thank you for substitute teaching for 50 days or more. 35 days, we would do a $300 semi-annual bonus, and 20 days. And that's right, we've got so many that are like between 10 and 19. And if we can just get those people to do 20 or more days, that would help us out a lot there too. And then we would like to increase the substitute rates. So currently we pay a substitute teacher $90 a day. We'd like to increase that to $100. We pay a half day is $50. We'd like to increase that to $60. For retired teachers, we pay $125. We'd like to increase that to $140. We pay them $65 for a half day. We'd like to increase that to $75. We are really struggling to provide nurse substitutes as well. We have some retirees who we have come to rely upon pretty heavily the last few years. And we would like to propose that we increase the standard nurse substitute rate to $22 and the retired to $32. And those hourly rates come from the salary schedule that we pay. So the 22 comes from the entry level salary that we pay for a school nurse, and that 32 for the retired comes from the salary we pay a teacher at the top end, a nurse at the top of that scale. I'll let you chew on that for a second. I'm going to show you the financial impact of this.
Really dumb question.
Sure.
Semi-annual, is that calendar year or school year?
Twice a semester. So we look at the first semester, so August to December, we did 50 days, then we look at it again, second spring semester.
Are other schools doing that? I mean, is it like, I'm gonna get my Marriott points here and I'm gonna go get my Hilton points and just.
You know, I know some school corporations in Indianapolis that are offering incentives like that. I don't know any of our area schools that are doing it, so pioneering here. And I have cleared all of this with Wilsub. I've talked with them about this, how we'll go about doing it, making sure it doesn't violate any terms of our agreement. And the hope would be that we post these 3 permanent sub-teacher positions and we don't pull away any of our current paraprofessionals that might be interested in that, or any of our current substitute teachers.
These daily rates, are they, I'm assuming they're pretty competitive?
They are. Yeah. I know Warsaw just increased their teacher daily rate from 90 to 100. Yeah, I'd be happy to provide those comparisons to you so you can see, especially here more locally.
Elkhart did a big one. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, they're paying the retirees like $300 something a day.
And just fundamentally, it's probably Dr. Molnar that can answer this. Are these planned days off, or are they like 6 in the morning phone call, hey, scramble, the teachers, or is it kind of combo?
It's a
combination. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we noticing any problematic trends as far as like days that they're absent?
Oh yeah. I can show that to you here in a second. I tell you what, I will share that with you. I've got absences by day and by type. Monday to Friday.
I think what Mike, you were here when we approved the teacher contract at the end of, actually early November, but we actually put an incentive into the contract for use of personal days to try to slim those down. And we also put an incentive for the use of them on Fridays. Fridays is where we have the most absences. So I'm sure that probably goes in any profession.
So just the last thing here I'll share with you. Again, these are the absences. You've got the absences by year that needed to be filled by a sub. You've got the number that were filled by will sub and what that cost us. You've got the number that were filled internally and what that cost us. And then I put a column up there for permanent substitutes. Obviously, we didn't have those. If we did, I costed out for the 21-22, that second to last row there that's in italics. I took last year's stats and costed it out of this proposal. And then I've got at 2022, 2023, if we continue to trend and have the same number of absences that we had first semester, what that would cost. And so if I'm looking at that saying, well, gosh, we're looking at about, just a little over 100,000 in increased sub costs. But if you look at the breakdown by absence, it's not, that will not be the impact of these changes. That's because we are on pace to have 4,476 absences that need to be filled by subs compared to last year at 3,726. So actually, if you take this new one, this new proposal, and you look at it, if it was applied to last year versus this year, the cost per absence goes down by about 30.
I'm hopeful. If you look at 18, 19, that was the last regular year before we had COVID. We were at 3941 were the number of absences. We're currently at 2,238 for the year. Couple things I'm hopeful of. One, in negotiations, you guys know that we put in the contract incentives around those days. So we're hopeful that helps to bring that down. And so what you're seeing here is if that trend continues and nothing gets better, we'll be 500 absences more than we were last year. But if those things work, which we hope they do, we hopefully will end about where we were pre-COVID. So I know Stephen's mentioned a couple times that our absences amongst our teachers are up. So we hope those things work. But it also is going to take a while for people that I have the sniffles. It might not be COVID. Like you can maybe work. Versus before the pandemic. I know we have a lot of people who come to work sick. Everybody has people that come to work sick. But now it's just a different perspective. You don't want to get other people sick. So I'm sure that that's playing a role in that too.
It's great information, and I know you've put a lot of time into it, so thank you. I would make a motion to approve this as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Davis. Any additional comments or questions for Mr. Boyer? A second, but Mr. Yoder said, thank you so much.
I've had lots of candidates help, our principals have had input.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, sir. And go ahead and stay up. You're still up here?
Yeah.
You'd like us 11.2, consider an early retirement.
Yeah, so last year we did an early retirement notification incentive for teachers. We gave them $2,500 if they notified us by February 1st that they were going to be retiring at the end of the school year. We did the same for classified. We offered them a $1,000 stipend if they provided us notification. This allows us to identify our needs going into the next school year so that we can get after, we can start marketing and getting after and hiring high quality people before they start getting hired by other corporations. As a part of the contract this year, we negotiated the $2,500 retirement notification so that it didn't have to be an MOU after the fact. So we have the $2,500 retirement notification, exact same as last year, February 1st notification, that's set in place. We would like to do the same thing and have not proposed it to you yet for our classified staff and provide $1,000 retirement notification incentive. They finish the year and notify us by February 28th, so the end of February. We'll give them a little bit more time since we didn't have this in place as early as we did the teacher retirement notification.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions from Mr. Boyer? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Boyer.
Yeah, thanks again for your time.
Mr. Funston, 11.1.
Yep.
Or 3.
Yep, so, the Indiana Department of Transportation, wishes to acquire, a 25-foot strip of our eastern driveway to the new transportation center. Basically, they're getting ready to, turn, that County Road 13, into just a little roundabout at the end. You won't be able to get over the tracks with the overpass project. It ends out coming out to 0.021 acres. They're offering us $3,150 for all of that. And I will show you really quick on the screen here. Maybe. There we go. So this is County Road 13, where my cursor is right here, transportation area. We have a driveway that right now the bus drivers, well, they'll still be able to use the driveway. Bus drivers head out here, some go left, some go right. There'll be no going left anymore because they won't be able to go that way when the overpass is done. They would like 25 feet is this little area here, 13 feet. They've been out, met with Jeff Phillips, Josh Carlton. We think it's all okay. In the end, we probably would end up being required to do it anyways. And so my recommendation is that the board approve the deed, that small piece to the state. Any questions?
Motion by Mrs. Davis, second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Mr. Funston?
Basically, that's maybe what, 4 of these tables in line? That'd be great.
I tried to get us a little more money, but it didn't work out so well. I told Cammie that's silly. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. Is there any sharing from the board this evening?
I know Jennifer and I were able to be at senior night for swimmers, and this class of swimmers are just incredible. I mean, I don't think they've lost an NLC dual meet forever. So just kudos to the swim program. And then break, I participated in the Indiana School Board Association legislation training. And Dr. Molnar and I talked about some of the bills that are out there already, and it'll be an interesting year in legislation. So get ready to read.
I'm gonna go back to the policy committee. I just want to give a shout out to Carla, because if it wasn't for Carla, she makes this really easy for us, for the guy who know everything. Carla does a lot of work behind the scenes, so let me give a shout out.
Very good. Anything else? Okay, superintendent's report.
It is School Board Appreciation Month, if you didn't know. And so I'd just like to say thank you for all you do. And I know our student council from high school will be here at the next meeting to formally thank you for your service as school board members. Even you, Mike, even though it's been a short time here. So, and then if you could stay after the meeting just for a short time, I have a handout with dates for some things. I just want to make sure our calendars are good. So we'll take a short break, bathroom break, and then come back. Just go over our calendar. And Mr. Boyer was.
On your mark, get set. Will you go over our upcoming board meeting schedule, please?
Yep, so we have an executive session, January 23rd, at 4 o'clock. And then, at 6 o'clock, that's on the 23rd. Again, on the 23rd, we have our next regular meeting at 6 o'clock. And then just back at it, February 6th.
And do we have a high school tour?
We do. We are going to be with Mr. Moore touring the high school on Thursday morning as well. And he's got things planned well for us.
Okay, that's great. And Mr. Boyer, we're going to adjourn our meeting at 7:35.
All right.
Drive safe.
See y'all later.